Welcome to the 2024 Strategic Planning Forum. We are going to start off with a video. My name is Kimberly Wright. I am the facilitator for the process, and I am hoping that you all enjoy today and get a lot out of the event, and also particularly participate in our workshops. We have workshops for all of our different pillars of success. Check it out. Thank you.
The community college, by definition, is charged with meeting community needs and involving community participation. Certainly, all the community colleges sponsored by the City University are committed to this goal.
I've been at LaGuardia since September of 1995. I walked in the week prior to graduation, and on graduation day I was running the vice president's office. It was a whirlwind beginning to a lifelong career.
I arrived at LaGuardia in 1979, and it was quite a different place. Not a bad place, an excellent place to have started my career on the college level, and I've enjoyed those years here. My impression was that this was a place you could come to and try new things and grow and develop as the college was about to grow and develop.
I came to LaGuardia with the hopes of getting a good job, and I lived in Queens, so it was the closest college to where I lived. It was the most convenient. Ultimately, I was afforded the opportunity of a lifetime as this college and this community really embraced me.
I first started LaGuardia in 1992 as a contractual security guard. Then I took the exam and I was hired as a peace officer in 1994, promoted to a sergeant, and then the assistant director. And I'm currently, from 2020 to now, I'm working as the director of public safety.
So my name's Hugo Fernandez. I'm a photography professor here at LaGuardia Community College, and I've been here since 1994.
I came to LaGuardia in 2011, and I had only lived in the city for 4 years. So I was very new to the city, I was new to being in Queens, and at first I wasn't sure if I was the right fit. And eventually, within my first semester, I fell in love with the students. I fell in love with the community here. I fell in love with the authenticity of the students.
Since I came to LaGuardia in 1972, the summer of 1972, already we had about 25% Hispanics, we had Greeks, we had Italians, we had Afro-American students, many from the Caribbean. So inclusion has always been a part of LaGuardia.
I've been at the college about 27 years now. I've seen a lot of students come and go, and I really think LaGuardia is a special place. I've learned from a lot of them that it is. I mean, we really treat people special. We really help them out and go to extraordinary means to help them out.
I've been at the college for more than 10 years. First as a student, then as an intern, college assistant, and then eventually as a full-timer. So I really love LaGuardia. I've never left, and the changes have all been positive.
Personally, I felt like the relationships here were special. I mean, I connected with faculty right away, and that kept me going and kept me enrolled in college. And I think that that's really important, and we do that really well here. A lot of our faculty really do engage with our students and connect with them.
We took two groups of students, about 13 in each group, to Chile in 2012, 2013. And I was lucky enough to go along for the second trip, which was very enjoyable. It was a very different experience rather than dealing with students over the course of many months. We had a very intense experience over 1 month's time where we were with the students 24/7 and traveled amazing country, Valparaiso, Santiago, Patagonia in Argentina.
We are here to serve our students, but also for us as faculty and staff to work together as a collective with the students to make the college experience better for all.
It was really important that I had a peer mentor at the time. If it wasn't for my peer mentor who I related with, who was also a single mother like me, she gave me guidance, feedback. She took me to tutoring, which I thought was really great. And so if it wasn't for that connection that I established with my peer mentor, I don't think I would have graduated from college.
I started to see more diverse ethnic and racial representation among students, and I'm a linguist, so I also care about the languages, and language diversity is also increased at LaGuardia.
We are now using epistemologies, methodologies from those many cultures, rather than subjecting them to parameters that were basically Western European. We are not throwing anything out.
What's really great for me is when I see the eyes of the students light up and they are learning what you're teaching and you're sharing the experiences that they bring and what you bring in terms of expertise of the subject matter.
My impression of LaGuardia was one of respect. It was inviting, the cleanliness, the people were kind. There was so much diversity within the college. The respect, everything was so inviting. It made you want to come to work and meet people, talk to people, and those expectations were also passed on the students.
One of the things that makes LaGuardia Community College very special, again, is the resources that we provide our students. LaGuardia definitely goes out of its way to help students succeed on many different types of levels, both academically and personal aspects as well. So LaGuardia, I would say, is one of the forerunners as far as providing student services to make sure that they can achieve their career goals.
I've just been so amazed and impressed by our students' possibilities. And some of my favorite moments have been when I've seen our students succeed in ways that I wouldn't have ever imagined back in 2011. When we took 2 productions, now 3 productions, to the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival, I've seen that work be done in front of the actual playwrights who wrote those works. So these are Broadway playwrights. These are people who are very professional. And what is so impressive to me is that they have seen what I see in our students. They see that authenticity, they see that possibility, and for them to see their own work come to life through our students' voices and embodiment, to me is just the best gift that I've received here.
I hope that we continue growing. I hope that I'm confident that we're not going to forget that the students are important, that we have that personal connection with the students. We keep that going. It's one of the things, like I said, that makes us a very unique place. Many of our faculty and staff really go above and beyond and continue doing that and have like an open door type of policy with students. And I think students feel like they can come and see someone at almost any time and get an answer, and I think that's something that I certainly would love to see continue and will continue.
So I see LaGuardia playing that role for students as we move forward and as we all adjust to an in-person and 3D reality on college campuses. We're seeing it across the country, and our students are talking about the transition back to what we think of as a real traditional system and platform for teaching and learning.
The future of LaGuardia is very exciting. There is nothing more exciting right now than arriving in Long Island City. I've been here since 1972. I can't recognize Long Island City, and I think if you just go out the door and walk around, you see the future of LaGuardia Community College. It is in our middle name, community.
What do I hope for LaGuardia? I hope that LaGuardia continues to grow and prosper and take into the needs of the community as it grows and changes, and that we get our numbers back to where they once were, and perhaps even more than that. I hope that people love LaGuardia like I do, and that it's been home to me, and I've been able to share my life with LaGuardia.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kenneth Adams. Most of you figured that out. Thank you to Manny, Gina, Ed, Kadi. I'm going to miss people's names from our communications and marketing team who put that video together, and to all the volunteers in it who, told their LaGuardia story. We have, two people in that video introduced themselves by saying they came to LaGuardia in 1972. Professor Richard Lieberman, the founder and director of Archives, who I don't see here. But Professor Ana Maria Hernandez also reminded us she came from, and she is in the audience. So Ana Maria, thank you. 1972 to 2024, but who's counting? Anyway, thanks for that video. This is a kind of our public kickoff of the strategic planning process, and I want to walk you through how it's going to work. And we have a very important and fun an engaging keynote address from a special friend in a minute. But before I introduce Dara Byrne and get her up here to the stage, I want to give you a little more background and kind of frame this somewhat. Let me thank, as I always like to do, our American Sign Language interpreters. This is Amy Rubinger. Thank you, Amy. She'll be joined by Alan White. Thank you, Alan. Our interpreters, and they're interpreting for folks who are here, but also this is being live streamed and recorded, and the sessions later on as well are also online, so people are joining us virtually and also here in person. We also have a thank you I wanted to share, which is that a number of volunteers from the Harvard Business School Alumni Club of New York, which is a group that does volunteer kind of consulting projects for LaGuardia, has for a number of years. And this semester, they're doing 2 or 3 projects with different areas of the college. They have helped out sort of facilitating, and they ran a workshop on Wednesday for members of the steering committee. So I know Richard Kane and others are here. Thank you, Richard, and your team from HBS, from the club, for your great volunteer help. We are really appreciative of that. We're sort of, normally in a strategic planning process, you could do kind of past, present, and future. LaGuardia is different. So today we're going to do, in effect, past, future, and present. And by that, I mean, the past was kind of captured in this fantastic video. The future will be described by Dr. Dara Byrne in a few minutes, our keynote speaker. And the present, which is what we really need to focus on for our planning process, will be delivered to us, presented to us by a terrific group of students in a panel. And after that, inspired by past, LaGuardia's past, future for all of us. Spoiler alert, I was going to talk about AI. And then present, the needs of our students, what student success looks like from students themselves. From there at 10:30 or so, we'll step out, get some more coffee and breakfast, and then go to the breakout groups. So a little more about the strategic planning process. And some of you, back on April 5th, a Friday several weeks ago, we had our first meeting of the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. And since then, we've been basically preparing for today and for a more public launch of this process. The committee has about 25 people, right now too many to list, but many of them are in the room, and thank you for being here. And they are divided up into 8 basically work groups around 8 pillars of student success. The 8 pillars of student success, and this should be noted in the program material that's out on the table, are teaching and learning, student support, career services, and economic and social mobility. That's one long pillar. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, facilities and resources, student experience, culture and climate, and community engagement. And yes, if you were counting along with me, that's 8. And some of you have said, well, where did those 8 pillars come from? Well, the backstory here is that strategic plans for places like LaGuardia don't start from zero. You know, there's a context and there's a starting point. And what we have to kind of pull together as the foundation of our strategic plan, or think of it almost as some foundational documents that we start with, is our most recent Middle States self-study and the recommendations that we agreed to take on with respect to Middle States. So we've got Middle States on the one hand. And on the other, we have the CUNY Chancellor, Felix Matos Rodriguez's recent strategic plan for the whole CUNY system, which is called CUNY Lifting New York. And it's a strategic plan he released last fall. Every college has to align with the goals of the Chancellor's plan. We're given independence in how we do that. And trust me, the Chancellor's goals are goals we would hold true ourselves. But what I'm saying is we don't, and finally, we have our own existing 5-year strategic plan, which is expiring as we speak. It was done in 2019, so it runs through 2024. And many of you participated in that process. So we have those 3 starting points, if you will, which is what led us to the 8 pillars, because those 8 pillars that I just described really are consistent with the goals and objectives that we either inherit from our current plan, those that we have to align with in the Chancellor's strategic roadmap, and those that we must be mindful of so that we reflect and Dr. Navaler is looking at me to remind me of this, that we're always consistent with Middle States. And Middle States will be coming back again at this point, 5 years. So that's how those if you will, 8 pillars, that's where they come from, because we need a starting point. The other starting point, and this, I'll confess that this is just my perspective on this, is that it's all framed around student success. Each one of those pillars, the question for the people in those pillar groups, those work groups, is what do we need to do in terms of goals and strategies and tactics to advance student success within that pillar? So think about that if it's DEI, think about that if it's facilities, think about that if you're in teaching and learning. What are the goals and the strategies, and to the extent that one can get to them, because it gets complicated, tactics to advance student success across those 8 pillars? And that's really the homework, if you will, the assignment for each of the 8 work groups. And again, thank you to the volunteers. I see Asanta nodding her head. I know what work group you're in. A lot of the volunteers, Laura's here. I'm looking around the room and see many of you who were here on the Friday, April 5th, when we started this and we introduced these 8 pillars. The other thing about the pillars, I'll say, is that in strategic planning for a place like LaGuardia, we can't just come up with a series of grand ideas. That sounds really good. Someone else will have to take care of it. Oh, here's a problem. Pick your area. And a group of volunteers says, it would be great if LaGuardia could do this in this particular area. Someone else will take care of that. Like someone else will get an internship for every student. Why doesn't Jessica Perez, sitting in the pink jacket in the back, Jessica, you're in charge of careers. Let's make her go do that. That's unfair, right? For volunteers to come up with wonderful, lofty ideas and kind of randomly assign them to their colleagues. No, we have to have a sorting process where all of the ideas the 8 work groups come up with, and I'll work on this with Billy and our vice presidents, get sorted out to the different divisions of the college. And there's agreement around the metrics, like by how many more internships, should we ask Jessica and her team to work on, right? So that, in other words, you take these goals, the work of the pillars, and then it gets assigned to divisions. And what happens? I, as your president, hold the leaders of those divisions accountable for advancing the work in that pillar. And so there was a sorting of these 8 pillars also, frankly, by me, Billy, Ben, Sunil, Shahir, by me, and who am I leaving out? Ben, I'm sorry, Ben and Alexis. And so that they would be comfortable, because they're going to have to, their divisions will take on the work. So that's a very important piece. And that's the last thing I guess I'll mention, which is the idea of accountability. If you're going to do a strategic plan, you have to set goals, and then the leadership of the institution holds people accountable for achieving those goals. Of course, we have to provide the needed resources, support. It can't just be arbitrary. But at the end of the day, we will have a public dashboard. Actually, Kimberly's been working on this already, setting up a template for this. We're coming out of the process, and this will be more clear in the fall. Each one of those 8 pillars will have a series of goals, and there'll be measurable objectives. By how much, by when. It's a 5-year plan. So each of the next 5 years, there'll be numerical goals. There'll be targets. And there'll be a public dashboard so everybody can everyone can follow our success division by division, pillar by pillar, at meeting those targets. There are public accounting for what I call collective accountability. In educational institutions, it's really important to drive towards collective accountability because no one person is solely responsible for one student's successful outcome. It is very much team effort, right? Led, of course, first by faculty, but then all the other functions of the institution. No one person is responsible for student retention. No one person is responsible for recruiting students. No one person is responsible for the graduation rate, obviously. So you have to have a sense of collective accountability. The best way, in my view, to do that is to have a public dashboard where anyone at any time can log onto the dashboard and see how are we doing a year from now, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, collectively to reach these goals. So that's a little bit more of the history of how we got to the 8 pillars and the fact, again, that we're not starting from zero. We've been around since 1972. Witness the video, 1971, actually. And so that, I hope, is helpful in terms of framing this. To the volunteers who are already involved in this, I do want to talk about timing for a second. We're going to extend the horizons a bit because everybody's just so busy, and this feedback has, reached me in the last few days. In the sense that we simply want, after today, after the workshops that start at 10:30, we want all of those 8 work groups to do their touch points, as Kimberly calls them. Touch points are any form of outreach to get more people to give you input. Could be a meeting, it could be a Zoom meeting, it could be a jam session. But to engage more people in designing the goals for the pillars. We'll do that all right through June, up until graduation. And then over the summer, we'll roll up all the material together kind of in a draft form to share with all of you in the fall when we come back after summer break. And Christy and I have talked about in the fall, taking, again, the draft recommendations of the plan to Senate for their consideration, its consideration in the fall. So that's what's happening. It's today's May 3rd. So right through June, we've got time for the touch points. If it feels rushed, I apologize. But the point is we really want everybody's input before many people go on summer leave. And then again, we'll do some cleanup and some working with the draft over the summer. All right, that's, and I'll be around, by the way, if people have questions in the hallway in the break. Let's get to something I'm really excited about. And I hope I know you will be too. And that's our keynote address to get us thinking about the future. Did the past, here comes the future. Then we'll get the students up to do the present. Dr. Dara Byrne serves as the 4th Dean of the William E. Macaulay Honors College, one of the 25 colleges in the City University of New York system. Dean Byrne has 2 decades of experience as a professor, researcher, and higher education leader with expertise in developing initiatives and enterprising student success programs. Prior to Macaulay, Dr. Byrne served as Associate Provost for Undergraduate Retention and the Dean of Undergraduate Studies at John Jay. She was there, John Jay, from 2016 to 2022, again, before moving on to become the Dean of Macaulay. As Associate Provost and Dean when she was at John Jay, Dara developed student-focused initiatives that are credited with raising the college's graduation rate by 16% in 5 years. That's a number that makes Nava fall out of her chair. It's fantastic. Dr. Byrne holds a PhD in rhetoric and intercultural communications from Howard University in Washington, D.C. She has 2 master's degrees, one in emergency management from John Jay, and the other in English language and literature from Carleton University. And she also earned her BA in sociology and English at Carleton University, which is up in Ottawa, Canada. She's a friend and colleague in the leadership of the CUNY system, and we're so glad she said yes to our invitation to join us this morning. Please, a warm LaGuardia welcome for Dr. Dara Byrne.
A lot of pressure to be fun and engaging. You never say that about a speaker in front of an audience because now they're thinking, okay, wait, how much fun was that? Thank you, everyone, for. How do I? Sorry. I swiped and it's not here. Okay, while we're fixing that, every time I hear my bio and particularly some of those numbers of what we were able to do at John Jay in 5 years, I can't believe that that was me. You should know before I begin, thank you, when you hear that I'm talking about AI, you have to put this in the context of being um, a person with humanities degrees. My undergraduate was in English. I also did sociology. I have a master's in English. My master's thesis was on Toni Morrison's Beloved. Um, my PhD was in rhetoric and intercultural communication. I am a humanist. I'm also what my daughter likes to call a Luddite. My cell phone is practically out of date. She is appalled by the pixels. And so I am really not a technologist. And so I share that with you because if I can be on this stage talking about AI and the work that we did leveraging AI, anybody can do this. One of my favorite African proverbs goes a little something like this. If you think you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent the night with a mosquito. I see some of you have spent the night with a mosquito. But the principle of this proverb cautions us to never forget the difference between size and purpose or scale and power. The size of the mosquito versus its value in the ecosystem can also really not be fully appreciated until we realize what it would be like if there were no mosquitoes at all. I want you to think about that in the context of what LaGuardia does in Long Island City and beyond. One institution with the power to transform lives. It's a lot of mosquitoes in this building that have been doing that every single day. And I know that when you're thinking about AI and the future, and I don't know, I don't have any access, we don't have any money, I want you to think about when you've not been in that situation before. I'm on this stage because of an unfunded mandate. And so I really wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you not about what AI did for me, but actually the opportunity in front of you. This is not a conversation about AI at all. And so in our time together, we're going to be talking about what I think of as the LaGuardia opportunity. I'm going to share a little bit about my case study, my experience in data philanthropy, because I've actually never purchased AI. Some of the lessons learned, because I focus on collaborative AI, not generative AI. I used to say machine learning when I was trying to hide the fact that we were focusing on AI because people thought, this is crazy. We have no money at John Jay. This dean is running around talking about AI. So I do focus on collaborative AI, and you're going to, as I'm talking, you're going to get a sense of what my values are like and why collaboration is central. And the last thing is, look, this is a school. If the faculty are not connected, we don't have much at all. Okay. Okay. So there are three things that I think are top of mind when I think about what your opportunity is here at LaGuardia. And that is really the opportunity to close equity gaps for the most vulnerable, to build a strategy that you can actually sustain. I think what you'll hear that's most remarkable about what we were able to accomplish at John Jay was to move those graduation rates within our budget. I didn't purchase any AI. In fact, we raised money in order to test the tools that we developed. And all of that scaling up did not affect, and I know you'll love this, Ken Adams, did not affect the base budget. So like Carol Mason's sometimes very sad when she sees me. But also there's an opportunity to really reflect on the data maturity of your college. How equipped are you to be a centerpiece of artificial intelligence and the AI awareness that you need to sustain that? And I think that's a really important part of this. The tools are second to the human beings that are making decisions with those tools. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, what is collaborative AI? So, for me, collaborative AI is really designed to work alongside you. I don't believe in AI replacing human beings. I really don't. I'm using my cell phone to call people, I'm using it as a tool to get things done. And I think the same way about what artificial intelligence in partnership with human beings who have decision making to do, what that allows us to imagine. So how it is that you partner for systems that where human beings are providing guidance and feedback, but empowers you to be more accurate, more responsive. You know what it's like to have 750 students standing in a line waiting for information and only one human being available to serve. It's in that context that collaborative AI in our CUNY system really becomes something exciting to think about the potential for the purpose that you are working on in your strategic plan. There is nothing that comes above that purpose. I think one of the pieces that I would just recommend as you are digging around at resources out there would be to take a look at this really cool website called Our World in Data. Again, I'm a humanist, so I like stories and I like storytelling. And there is a really good series of stories on Our World in Data that tells us a little bit about what has happened in this journey of trying to simulate human performance with artificial intelligence. And what you see, I'm leaving the slides. You can have the slides, so don't worry if you don't get the picture. And so what you see here is a timeline of all of the effort being invested in building tools that can simulate what humans can do. It's actually kind of crazy to see how far we've come in 20 years, but how much effort it's taken to jump above the kind of threshold where the AI is starting to look like something a human being could say or do. Took 20 years to get there. What's made the difference, though, is that a lot of those investments, do we know what the tools are being used for, what the purpose of them are? Not particularly. A lot of the investments here have been for research and development, private investments. The idea of investments for public benefit is only now coming into the conversation. And I think that is an important part for your strategic planning journey of being at the forefront of institutions that are thinking about how are you doing this, not at the top of the institution, but in your learning experiences, in the work that you're doing to get students over the finish line, to democratize AI and serve the people who need it most. Another really cool story on that website is this sort of timeline, if you will, of technology. And what they point to as one of the most important technologies ever made. Actually, I asked that as a question. What do you think is one of the most important technologies ever made? You are so close. Who said that? They think it's the refrigerator. And what they point to is what the refrigerator has done for women who traditionally had been linked to tasks in the kitchen, that because of the refrigerator got that time back and invested that time in their own access to the public sphere. Women moving out of the kitchen to running households, to running the world out there, happen from liberation of tasks. I think that's a really powerful way of thinking about technology and shifts, I hope, your perspective on what it means to be at the beginning point of asking this question of what are we using AI for? What are we using it for? I'd also offer to you that something that's worthwhile in your strategic planning process to look at would be Martin Luther King's 1967 Nobel Peace Prize speech. It's actually quite chilling because in that speech, he talks about the growing chasm between our advancements in technology and our lag in our moral advancements. What we're using the technology to do. At that time, he was focused on technology as exacerbating injustice, exacerbating poverty, and being used for war. So again, that question of what do you do? This mosquito in the ecosystem, what is your purpose for the AI is more pressing than ever. And I would dare say when you reflect, when you read that speech and you reflect on what King was saying in 67, you're going to see many of those types of questions still in front of you today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with AI. So there are actually two open source tools that I was able to build in 5 years while I was the associate provost and undergraduate dean at John Jay. And all of these were at zero cost to the institution because we entered into that process through data philanthropy. And the data philanthropy, that organization is called Data Kind. And believe me, this conversation is not about a particular tool. So if you say, can I have what John Jay had? I just want that. I'd say you're going about the strategic plan in the wrong way. There are no wrong answers, but there are wrong methods. And I think you really do have to focus on what you are trying to do here and how tools serve you. What is it that you want the AI to do? So in my case, we had an unfunded mandate to increase the transfer graduation rates from instead of counting at the 8%, 8-year graduation rate, CUNY was moving to 6-year. And I was unhappy because when you move to 6-year, then the numbers start to change dramatically, right? And without additional resources to try and move the needle, you start to realize how many students you aren't going to be able to serve year after year. That kind of thing sits with me, I'm sure, looking at the people in this room, knowing what you can't do every year, that sits with you. So I had the opportunity to have this conversation with DataKind again. They had previously built a tool for us focusing on graduating seniors, but it didn't accommodate transfer data. John Jay has about 50% of John Jay students are transferred in from another CUNY institution. So that was a big problem to not be able to adequately serve them. And the gift that I received from DataKind was, oh, we don't think you should modify the tool that you have. You should have something specifically to serve transfers. Now that's powerful, right? And kind of the opposite of what you sometimes hear when we think about who we're serving in CUNY. And I would say that's a bold step in the direction of not just admitting transfers, but being a transfer college. So these were the four sort of design issues that we were looking at. How do we surface students who might be at risk? How do we create a model that will identify students that might not finish in those 6 years and provide recommendations at the most actionable point in the student's journey? Now, I will be very real with you. These kinds of tools can be used at any moment in time to put up barriers. If you know the students who are at risk before they come to your institution, you can easily just block those students from coming. And I can't tell you that I can guarantee that another institution wouldn't do exactly that. But my institution, with our leadership in partnership with our faculty and our staff that are on the ground with students, built this and policies to ensure that we would never use AI in that kind of way. So where the machine runs using these kinds of data elements, it's actually inserted in the point between when students are admitted and accept the transfer offer from John Jay to before they select their classes. That's a very tight window, right? So if you think about that in the course of the summer, you're really looking at 4 weeks, 3 weeks, some of our late to register students, 1 week. So we're looking at a paper thin window of opportunity to try and get in there to identify risk and serve students before they spend a year with missed opportunities. Whew. This is not possible with the resources that we had at John Jay to do it without collaborating with a machine. So here's what the machine was able to do. So this is feature engineering, and I want to give you some snapshots so that you can kind of see, because when I tell people about AI, they think that there's like a robot walking beside us, there's something that's talking to us. It is actually not like that at all. And these were choices. What I know is that I deal in a world of unfunded mandates. We've got to make decisions and make things better, and we don't always get the money that we deserve. And so the choices that I got to make in collaborating with DataKind was, how can I do this in a way that's sustainable? Anybody can use, we can understand it, and most important, the advisor, even if we hired the most inexperienced advisor, they can get up to speed very quickly with this. So what the model did was identify for us a couple of things. 64% of all transfers to John Jay arrive at risk. 64%. That's huge. But we were also able to see now why they're arriving at risk. What the machine does is spit out, and again, these are choices that are being made. It spits out a basic Excel spreadsheet that by the student, let's name her Lisa. Lisa was a LaGuardia student who was also working full-time as a chef. She finally graduated after 4 years of working full-time and being in school, and has now decided that actually she doesn't want to go into the culinary industry. She wants to go to law school. So she's transferring to John Jay to fulfill her bachelor's degree in political science. Lisa is going to arrive to us at risk, even though her GPA says that she has everything to proceed onto her bachelor's degree. Sometimes she's at risk because of the time. Sometimes it is because of the classes that she needs to take and she is off track. And now to get back on track, she'll be there for 8 years. Sometimes she's at risk because she's running out of financial aid. In a 3-week window and 3,000 transfer students and a handful of advisors, Lisa would spend a year at John Jay not knowing that there was a better way to set up her schedule so that she wouldn't lose aid or pick the wrong classes. So what the model is doing is not just identifying, and our advisors love this, not just identifying why she's at risk, but actually the order of that risk. So the order, the magnitude of that risk on her non-success. So they get a running head start. It's like equipping an advisor with an MRI machine. They can see inside the file. And this is data coming from, if Lisa was at LaGuardia and has classes from Kingsborough, it's all in there running an estimate. So how well does this predict the risk? It's not perfect. And this is the part where humans are always at the center of this. It's not perfect, but man, it gets us really close in a sliver of a window. So, for example, the model is able to identify out of 100 students, 79% of that, so 79 out of every 100 students who are at risk. And then when we ran it against precision, 77, and the precision part is the advisors running through the cases and checking them, 77 out of the 100 were actually at risk. Now that's 77% accuracy. So what that allowed us to do was help our students and our advisors work together to make actionable decisions so that they start the 4-year component of their degree in a better position than if they were going it on their own. I can't tell you what that does for the people on the front lines to know that they are working with AI to perform better, to make their way through that caseload, to give students the information that they deserve so that they will get their degrees on time. So when I hear what happened with the graduation rates, I actually asked the IR director to recalculate because I couldn't believe it. All I wanted to see was a 1% increase. So when those numbers started flying, and it translated into hundreds and hundreds of students who earned their degrees that were predicted to never graduate, you can't even imagine what that does for your sense of purpose in this ecosystem. So here's the way that we tested it out, and I'm almost off your stage. We piloted this first with using the risk scores. The other features that you see here, many of you already know them. These are leveraging the tools that we already use. Intrusive advisement and working with financial aid to bring those pieces together. A lot of our students are running out of aid. Multiple options for financial aid. We all have emergency funding, but do we all know who actually needs the funding so that they will be able to continue for the next semester? We leverage tools like targeted messaging. EAB is a wonderful tool for this. Signalvine, whatever you have, you can use them. But the key part here is that you're harnessing it in collaboration with this other piece, this algorithm that's helping you to kind of calibrate. And of course, never underestimate the value of the student educational planner in DegreeWorks, because it allows you and the student to build things together, right? A couple of months ago, so the work that we were doing, Google.org, so the Google Foundation was really excited about and invested in it to share it with other schools. I was excited about this because I started this work in 2016, and today I'm still one of the few non-technologists in education that have built AI tools and get to talk about it. That's a long time has passed. It's 2024. And I started doing this in 2016. I'm now about to do a third model because I'm really interested in student vulnerability and disaster recovery now. It's that emergency management program from John Jay. And still, here we are. Not enough of our CUNY schools are participating in something that could really change what it is we do, ramping up our purpose in the world out there. So Google gave me the opportunity to write about my lessons learned. I'm an academic. I wrote lots and lots of words. They cut it down to like a 2-minute read. So if you Google me and put Google or Google policy, you'll find a really short article that distills what I think are the lessons learned, and I offer them to you in your strategic planning process. Start small. Start small. Please get rid of the idea that you cannot do this. There is a Luddite on the stage who has degrees in English and rhetoric talking to you about moving graduation rates by 16% in 5 years with no money spent by the college. I promise you, if you get rid of the idea that you don't know, you will open yourself up to what you actually know how to do, what your true power is in this ecosystem, and embrace the ways that you can leverage that to help move this institution forward. I'd also offer to you a very important way of thinking about the entire organization, which is your data maturity. There is I like free stuff. There's a website called, there's a nonprofit in the UK called Data Orchard. And they have a tool on there, recommend your IR people take a look at it, that allows you to assess the data maturity of your institution. They have some key themes about what data maturity is and the sort of stages of moving from unaware to mastery. On the right is what my IR person did. He did this for me this week so that I could show you where Macaulay stands in relation to benchmarks from other nonprofits. So those little lines that you see on the right-hand side are where nonprofits who've taken the survey, where they tend to fall. And the colored items is where Macaulay fits. So in looking at that, you can probably guess, as we're kicking off our strategic planning process, what's on my mind right now. What's the whole picture? You want AI, you should have it for the purpose that you desire, but how does it live in this organization? And lastly, for my faculty, where's the faculty in the building? All right, this is especially for you. There are things that only faculty can do. And I want to always remind faculty that your purpose is not just to figure out a tool to make a job or a task in the classroom possible, but it's also to help our students understand their place in the world with the very tools that you are now figuring out. If you don't have access, neither do they. The success of our students depends on the faculty who teach them. It's only you who can help our students understand what the metrics of fairness is for collaborating with AI. And that's not the same as academic dishonesty AI. It's only you who can help them understand why transparency of data is really important. There's a lot of bias out there going into the data. And the work of the faculty, particularly in this university, and what this university has been doing for the world out there is crucial right now. We can build systems that translate the same bias in the physical world into our tools if there are not guardrails. It's our faculty who can talk about this and who can issue the call to action. I think there's also an opportunity to clarify the difference between code choices and policy choices. I got to make a lot of the code choices with the tools at John Jay, but they were in conversation with the community and the sort of policies that we have. We're not using AI to block students on their journey because it'll save us money. I'm sorry, that is not happening for me, but it is possible. And it is important that faculty are active in these conversations. And then lastly, I'm going to say this again about the practices of improving what it is AI is doing. Some of that is going to be in your own research. How does that show up in the classroom? Your concerns about what AI is doing is excellent for case studies and work with in your classes. I do believe that AI is for everyone. And while I'm figuring this stuff out, I'm doing a couple of cool things at Macaulay that I think that I share with you of what faculty can do, what administrators can do. We're working on a sort of a data storytelling intensive and thinking a lot about our non-STEM students who are at the greatest risk of being left behind if our classes don't engage in the humanities and social sciences with what AI means for them. The students who are learning how to code or who are being taught about the different options in STEM, they're going to be okay. But the students who are in fields that corporations are thinking about ways to make them more efficient, they might not be. And there are good opportunities here for thinking about what you would do with that. So we did a data intensive because there are a lot of people with jobs in New York where their actual job is data storytelling, which is a good marriage between the humanities and data insights. And through our shared friend, I have an opportunity to play around with a supercomputer. And I took that to the community and asked these workshops, what would you do with a supercomputer? And what was most interesting was that many people could tell me what they wanted answers to. How would we tell us about the rat problem in New York? That was like the number one thing people wanted to know. Tell us about the rats. But no one really knew what they would build once they had that answer. And that is your opportunity. What are you going to do with the AI that ramps up your purpose in this ecosystem? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Byrne. Dara Byrne, thank you so much. Dara referred to a mutual friend, it's a guy named Andrew Richey. And Andrew, more on this later, but he just recently founded an organization devoted to connecting AI to the public good, sort of not-for-profit AI deployment. And Dara is a big advisor to that effort. Thank you so much for that. Let's get our next speaker up, our own Dr. Nava Lehrer, who's going to do a quick review of the findings of the survey that I mentioned at the beginning of the program that we did with students. Come on up, Nava, in November and December of 2023. Again, this setting the stage for discussion with students around student success. Here comes Nava. She's got a PowerPoint. This is the next part of the program. Thank you very much. And again, a round of applause for Dr. Dara Byrne. That was fantastic. I didn't oversell you, Dara. You more than hit the ball out of the park. Thank you again. Well, let's get Nava. Nava, you ready?
Hello, my name is Dr. Nava Lehrer. I'm the Dean for Institutional Effectiveness, which means my hands are everywhere that is something to do with assessment, accreditation, surveys, evaluation, supporting, I think, most of you in what you're doing. The reason for the survey we did, and you need to know that CUNY is doing student experience survey every other year. However, the student experience survey is generic, is for all CUNY, and we use it a lot. And please go to our website, the OIRA website. If you go to LaGuardia and click on research and assessment, you'll find our website. You'll find the summary of all surveys, including the one I'm discussing now. So you'll see it in more detail now. I'm going just to discuss it briefly. The main reason for this survey was in preparation for the strategic plan. We wanted to understand more the challenges for the students, what the student need, what the student experience is. And we put also in there 3 open-ended questions, which gave us a little bit more of the context. And I'll explain a little bit more how we use it. But when you see a survey, and the survey was short, we tried not to ask too many questions. We tried to make it user-friendly. We worked with Ellen Kish, who will be talking in here, to kind of focus on what the experience at LaGuardia is, but the open-ended questions, the questions for the students give you a bit of more deep dive sense of what the student mean. So overall, 900, the survey was done at the end of fall 1, so fall 1 and fall 2 students participated. 934 students completed the survey, and most of the results were positive. 78% agreed that the academic coursework is relevant to career goals. 76% agree that degree requirements are clearly communicated. 75% agreed that faculty and staff genuinely are interested in supporting the students. Now, it's not agree, disagree. You had also some in the middle, so really the negative responses were very small. And there was also lots of positive responses for the tutors. They agreed that the tutors, peer mentors, peer advisors help support the academic success. I will give you a little bit of the survey finding, and you have much more on our website. We were concerned about transfer. Transfer for many of our students is a goal, and we wanted to know what our students feel about it. And we found that 76% of the students want to transfer to four-year colleges, but 28% are not sure. So that's something for us to kind of work about. When we ask them what are the best resources for transfer, academic advisors were number 1, financial aid, ASAP and college discovery advisors, and transfer events. So academic advisor by far over third, and then the rest is a little smaller. We also ask about social life, and that's interesting because it appears that some of the students, only 25.5% agreed that it's easy to connect with other students. And here is where we need to go to what the students' comments are. They're not criticizing their students. They actually are saying, we want to connect more. We want to find ways to connect more. We have a hard time finding our students, finding ourselves, but that's what we want. They did not criticize the other students. They say, we are really, really, really hungry to have more contact with our fellow students. And if we look at the rest, we can understand some of the barriers. Some of the barriers are extracurricular activities because only 18% of our students participate in extracurricular activities. And that's the place when you get to know other students in addition to the classrooms and interaction after school and maybe the library, but that's the place. And we asked them about the reasons why they cannot do it. And for a lot of them, number 1 was timing and location, meaning it was not good time for me and it was far from where I work or live. I just couldn't do it. The other was off-campus work, academic pressure, and lack of knowledge, which is something we can focus on. We should let the student know about what's going on, and we might be able to offer a little bit more flexible timing so more of them could participate. We asked them about course scheduling and discovered that 38% of our students more evening courses. And we do also have students who want weekend courses. You need to know that many of the respondents were older students. However, Also in the comments, we saw many of the students saying, I work, I have obligations, please, I need more non-traditional hours. I need more courses in the evening so I could succeed, basically. We asked them about career planning, and here, and I know we are working a lot with career development, and they're doing a lot of good work, but only about half of our students agree that LaGuardia is doing a good job in providing career planning services. So we do need, again, to reach out more to the students. And I think the small grant we received for workforce development will be helping there as well. We were asking about support services, and as you can see, close to 3/4 of the respondents agree or strongly agree. We combined the strongly agree and agree that tutors and peer mentors and advisors help support their academic success. Most respondents indicated that faculty and staff generally are interested in supporting their success. And when we look at what was used the most, tutoring services, financial aid, and career planning were used the most by the vast majority of the students. We also asked the students, and that's a little bit, sorry, too small for you to see, but another section is LaGuardia is doing a good job in providing those services. And the top of agree and strongly agree were 60%. We have a little bit more to do. Most of them agreed about tutoring. They agreed about financial IT help, financial aid, and they were least satisfied with evening and weekend courses and childcare. So we just need to think about that as well. It looks like the need for more traditional hours for offering courses and also extracurricular activities, I think, is important. And we finally asked the students what's the most challenging issues. And you need to know, reading their comments, they really agree with what's going on here. We combined the three. We asked for the top one. We combined the top three. So you get a little bit more of a sense of what the most important part was. You can see number one, number two, number three, and then combining them. The most important ones that come up are balancing work, family, and school, and paying for college. These were by far very important. However, when you combine 1, 2, and 3, you also see that registering for courses that meet my scheduling needs is important. It was not number one. Only 15% said it's number one, but we combine 1, 2, and 3, you get to the 70%. The rest was much less. Accessing tutoring or group study opportunities, receiving helpful and timely feedback from faculty, and connecting to faculty outside were not a challenge. So these are the top ones, and I think we all know about it.
This is all about student success. And when we talk about student success, we're talking about degree completion, right? We understand that you're here to get degrees, right? Hopefully you want to have this robust transformational college experience, but the end goal is to actually get a degree. So if you were able to get more financial aid or assistance to cover the costs of attending LaGuardia, would you be able, assuming that you work, many of our students work, so I'm going to just assume that many of you might, would you be able to reduce the number of hours you work and devote more time to being a student and maybe even take additional courses?
Well, in my case, it's very, let's say, special because I am an international student. So I can get by any means financial aid. However, there are some other ways that LaGuardia have found or offer me to keep like more hours at LaGuardia and spending less time trying to get funding for my semesters. However, I guess the answer is yes. definitely if we have more help or more ways to participate from LaGuardia programs and get more support, economic support, we'll definitely be more getting classes, more classes at LaGuardia instead of being worried about where to find the resources.
And thank you for representing. We understand that the international student experience presents unique challenges, right? And so clearly having additional resources could eliminate some of that burden of trying to figure out how you're going to pay for living and tuition. And thank you. Arthur, did you want to?
Yeah, I was going to state there were times where I wasn't able to pay for certain textbooks due to, I am receiving financial aid, but at
But it
times
doesn't always cover everything.
Yeah, it doesn't cover everything. So I'll be out to, look for a job or working extra days instead of dedicating myself to school, learning more about what needs to be done or practicing, getting ready for my finals, but I'm at work. So I got to come home. I get off at 10. I got to do an extra, some studying for an hour and a half. And by the time I'm finished, I'm in bed by like 12:30, 1 o'clock. But, if I was receiving more financial aid or just different resources to help me, I wouldn't be able to, a job wouldn't be in the question, honestly.
And you could devote more time to school.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And again, thinking about completing your degree, this is something else that came up in the data. The idea of perhaps there aren't enough evening courses that are being offered. How much does course scheduling have to do with your ability to complete your degree? Do you think that if there were more options in, for example, in the evening or at night, it would be easier for you to complete your degree and perhaps more quickly?
I have taken both morning classes and evening classes depending on my schedule that gave me an opportunity to have activities in the morning like internships and jobs that almost always finish around 5, 6 o'clock. And then I had an opportunity to come to school and take a class, evening class at 8 o'clock, even at 9 o'clock. And what I noticed is that classes are always full. And I believe if there were more evening classes, they will be taken with the students and mostly older students who have families and full-time jobs find it very useful and giving all of the students an opportunity to work with their schedules, take the classes they want with the professors they want is very important for their success, and evening classes are very important too. And evening events.
Thank you. Yeah, we know that those evening classes are full. And then, just the ability to be able to choose something that works with your schedule. But Cato, you're also talking about being able to select the faculty that you want to study with and learn with. Does anybody want to add to that?
Well, I guess in that case, first year seminar, it plays a great role in this because fortunately, my first year seminar professor helped me from the first semester. So I planned from my first semester all the classes I was about to take during my whole semesters here at LaGuardia. And I decided in my first semester that I wasn't going to take or finish in only 4 semesters, but in 5. So from the very beginning, I decided that. So then I started always like checking which availabilities, which classes I would take. And from there, I tried like to comply to some of the schedules that we have, but also for me, particularly, weekend classes would be better. Yes.
Yeah, because although you made this plan, and I can imagine how crucial that plan was in getting you to the end or will be or has been, that availability might not line up with what you've planned out. And then the possibility of extending your time in classes over the weekend could be of value to you. Is there anything else, and this could be, Rebecca or John as well, is there anything else that you can think of that would help you complete your degree sooner, right? We've talked about additional financial assistance, change in course scheduling, or additional courses at different times. Is there anything else?
For me, as a full-time student, and also as a student that receives full financial aid, for me, I don't think that there's anything that really can help make my degree like get completed faster, because I think that once you are taking like 14 or 15 credits a semester, that's pretty much like the limit for like sort of healthy time management, in my opinion. So I don't really know if there's a way to make that faster, or if that should be encouraged.
Okay, fair enough. 15 credits is probably the max, right? So you've picked up enough momentum, and certainly don't want to, fail as a result of being overwhelmed. So I'm going to move us then to what I think all of you might be doing right now. Are you all planning on transferring?
No, I am not.
Okay, so there's one. Okay. So for those of you who are planning on transferring, or likely already committed to a transfer plan, what's motivating you to transfer to get a 4-year degree? Rebecca, you want to say something?
For me to transfer to a 4-year college, my major is engineering, right? So I don't think an associate degree would give me the opportunity to have a career that I want. And, just like the idea of going to a 4-year college, and since I already took like all my basic math and STEM classes here, I can really focus on more labs specific to my major, which I really enjoy. And, I didn't have the opportunity to enjoy here because my major is not really a big major in the school. And so some classes were not really available due to, students not in the major. It was just like me and a couple of students. So classes were not open. So, it's a really exciting new opportunity for me to dive in more to my major and know more about it. And also a bachelor's degree, right? So a bachelor's is, a very important degree, right? Especially engineering and STEM majors in general, to open up more opportunities in the career field.
Yeah. So I think you've spoken to the major reasons why students decide to transfer. So you get to more of an immersion in your field of interest, and as well as a greater credential for career prospects. And this is for anybody, what kind of support do you think is needed to help students navigate the transfer process successfully? John?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I think CUNY is really like wonderful in terms of the transfer process, because you can just submit your application in like 10 minutes or like 15 minutes. It's really nice, especially compared to like private colleges, obviously. So that's great. But for students that are interested in transferring to colleges outside of CUNY, I don't think that there's adequate support for those students right now. For example, I was actually a peer advisor at the transfer office. But recently, the office actually closed and merged with general advising. But what happened was ASAP students like myself were barred from having access to those advisors, because that's like the policy. So that's that presented a challenge for me personally. I'm sure many other students as well.
Yeah, thank you. Just being able, it's great to hear that the transfer process is seamless within CUNY, but for those of you who are considering going outside of CUNY, that would be helpful to have some more support. I'm gonna, just given the time, I do want to get to the end of this. Okay, I wasn't sure if I was being cut off yet, but okay. So this kind of touches on something Rebecca said about career success. You know, clearly we have the Center for Career and Professional Development offers robust services and support to our students. Not all of our students are accessing those services or resources. That said, you know, is that the only way to prepare LaGuardia students professionally? And I'd love to know what your ideas are about how we could do a better job at preparing students to be successful professionally.
For me, the most important part is to have the knowledge about the resources that LaGuardia offer. Because sometimes, well, I am an SSM, Student Success Mentor, and sometimes when we bring that information to students, some of them are a little bit lost or they didn't know about what LaGuardia offered, and maybe they are struggling with some issues that they didn't know here could be solved. So I think the key is having the information about LaGuardia resources.
Thank you.
I'd like to maybe mention that I think President Society is a really helpful resource to students. I think that it was for me it was really helpful in terms of career goals and planning as well as other aspects. So I think that more prioritizing those kind of organizations or clubs that really encourage that kind of level of sort of engagement and access to resources is really what could highly improve that aspect, I'd say.
Very helpful. You know, Carolina communicating the existence of those resources, but then John also helping students understand that, in fact, encouraging students to take advantage of them and help them understand that they're really a priority in getting to achieve those career goals that they're intending to achieve. My very last question here, I think supports the success of everything that we've talked about here. And I wish we had more time to spend on this, but so given the impact of the COVID pandemic and the increase in anxiety among college students, how can the college better support student well-being?
I guess some in-person events that are being like retaken now are helping a lot because, well, in my case, I lost my mom, so that was very hard for me. However, I have found even family at LaGuardia because I am very close to many people. LaGuardia Foundation has been a very big support for me. So I guess it's just like to open arms and open doors and say, here we have the resources. We are here for you. In some way, let the students know that LaGuardia is just trying to help us to be successful. That's what I feel, and that's what I try to communicate to those students that I have the opportunity to that in some way transfer that feeling that I am feeling about LaGuardia resources.
I'm sorry about your loss, Carolina. I think what you're saying is we need to do better at emphasizing the community in LaGuardia Community College, right? And helping students, particularly now, understand that there are people here for them that can support them. Any other thoughts, Cato?
I would say communication, your relationship building can be seen as a skill that can be developed, and offering workshops around it, in-person workshops where students just can gather around and learn again how to bond with each other, how to create new friendships, how to talk to each other, what can be the topic of conversation. It can be useful. It can help students to come back from the COVID impact.
Yeah, so let's not assume students know how to do that and then create opportunities to support them. And, at one point, maybe they did know how, but we also realize that some students maybe never developed those skills because of the prolonged virtual learning, but helping them and supporting them in doing so. Maybe time for one last comment.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off of what she said as far as like in-person workshops where we're now, everyone is not too, they're not really anxious or the anxiety is not kicking in due to them. COVID hit hard. We've lost some good ones during COVID. Some of us actually been sick during COVID. So that was really a scary time. So, LaGuardia has done very well as far as bringing us together, still making sure hands are sanitized, masks are still around. So LaGuardia has been doing such a good job with that. So definitely more in-person workshops.
So building on that and just making sure that, if we had more time, I'd ask you, how do we do that, right? Because I think a lot of us do put a lot of energy and time into planning different types of events. And the ideas that you've offered are actually going to be very helpful, I think. But the challenge is getting students on board, right? And it's not always so clear cut. But I want to thank you all for your valuable input and congratulate all of you as you're almost going to be graduating. So thank you.